So, good morning everyone. I welcome you all to the lecture series of surveying for GATE 2021. Okay, so we have done few topics related to surveying. Today we'll start with the new topic, that is tachometric surveying. Tachometric surveying is basically related to theodolite only. It is very similar to theodolite. The only difference in your theodolite and tachometer is that it has been provided with an analytical lens. Okay, and it has been provided with a diaphragm which is having upper hair as well as your lower hair. Okay, previously we have seen a theodolite that was consisting only the diaphragm, which was having only one vertical hair and one horizontal hair. But in tachometer it is provided with an analytical lens and with two diaphragm, and with a diaphragm which is having upper hair as well as the middle hair as well as your lower hair. Okay, with the help of that we can evaluate the horizontal and vertical distance, okay, by using certain trigonometric formulas. Okay, so this is related to your tachometric surveying. Okay, the surveying in which both horizontal and vertical control can be achieved, that is horizontal and vertical distance of various point can be determined directly with the use of instrument. Okay, so basically this type of surveying is, in this you can achieve what we can achieve the horizontal and we can also achieve the vertical distance. Okay, this method is very suitable in the places where we cannot reach or the places which is inaccessible. So at that places tachometric surveying can be of a very great advantage. Okay, this is very fast method. Okay, because the chaining operation is completely eliminated. You don't have to measure any distance with the help of chain. Okay, the error will not exceed 1/1000. This is one of the main important point. Okay, that the error will not exceed 1/100. Okay, the ordinary theodolite with steadier diaphragm is generally used as a tachometer. So basically you don't have to buy any other instrument because it is coming with your theodolite only. Okay, also called as tachometer. You see, this instrument is also called as tachometer also. Okay, it can be your theodolite, it can be a tachometer. Okay, adopted with irregular areas with undulation and water bodies. So as I have told you that it is suitable for the places where the undulation is there, where the water bodies are there, where we cannot physically go over there and measure those points. So in that places your tachometer plays a very important role and it is very useful, and it can very rapidly give you the horizontal and the vertical distances. Okay, now the difference between your tachometer, the different systems of tachometer, there are various methods available in tachometer. Okay, 1 minute. Why it is not clicking on pencil? Okay, now there are various systems available. Now the different systems of tachometer, as I've told you that tachometer is one of the simplest method of performing horizontal. In order to find out the horizontal and vertical distance, there are various systems available in that. The first system is called as your steadier system. As I've told you that it has been provided with a diaphragm which is having some cross hair. So the first method is your fixed hair method. In this method, what is there? There is a diaphragm in which the top and the bottom hair will be fixed. Okay, this is the most common method which has been used in your tachometric surveying. The next method is your movable hair method. In this method, what you have to do, you can move the top hair as well as the bottom hair with the help of some screws. They are been provided over there. So with the help of that, you can move your top hair as well as your bottom hair. Okay, after that there is a tangential method. In this method, this instrument, your simple theodolite is used. There is no need to use analytical lens as well as a stadium which is having 3 hairs. So a normal theodolite can also be used. In this, the only difference is that the staff which has been used in this method is having some targets which is at the top and the bottom. So first you need to take the target on the upper side, then you have to take the target on the bottom side, and you need to measure the angle, vertical angle, and based on that you can calculate what your tangential method. This is basically tangential method. Some special instruments are also available by which you can also perform your tachometric surveying. Okay, so these are the different methods which are available in tachometric surveying. Now we have got various equations and formulas based on which we can calculate your distance as well as your vertical angle, okay, or your vertical distance. The first method is your stadia method by fixed hair method. In this, if you want to find out what the horizontal distance, that is the horizontal line of sight, if you are having any object which is on the plain ground and you want to find out the horizontal distance between them, then the distance of elevation for horizontal angle, you can use this formula. D equals to what? It can be D, it can be length, equals to what? Ks plus C. Okay, where K is your multiplying constant. Okay, S is your stadia instead of step, that is your top hair reading minus bottom hair reading, and C is your additive constant. These three values if you have got, you can easily find out what horizontal distance. You have to put the value of K, which is generally in case of analytical lenses, provided this K value becomes 100, and this S value you will get from the leveling staff, which will be your top hair reading and the bottom hair reading, and C is your additive constant, which is generally taken as 0 because analytical lens is provided, so additive constant becomes 0. So by putting this equation, all the values, you can find out the horizontal distance. Okay, if you want to find out the elevation of a point, any point Q, you can use this formula, P plus H minus R. Okay, in case 2, when the distance and elevation of line of sight for the staff head vertically, so if the staff has been held vertically, so you will have to use this equation. The formula changes. The formula, if you want if you want to find out the length is given by what? Ks plus cos theta plus C. Okay, this angle you have to take the angle of the line of sight, so that angle you need to take and put over here. Okay, the distance can be given by what? L cos theta, which is equals to what? Ks cos square theta plus C cos theta. Okay, and if you want to find out the vertical height from the horizontal line of sight, it can be given as Ks sin 2 theta by 2 into plus C sin theta. For elevation, you can use this formula, Q equals to what? Elevation of P plus H plus V minus R. So you can use this formula when the line of sight is inclined upward. After that, for angle of depression, you can use the same formula. The formula does not changes for angle of depression. You can use the same formula. Okay, that is Ks cos theta plus C, and for D it will be Ks cos square theta plus C cos theta, and for V it will be Ks sin 2 theta by 2 plus C sin theta. Okay, this same formula you can use for elevation also, you can use for depression also. You need to remember these formulas. Okay, after that, the distance and elevation for inclined line of sight for the staff held normal. So when the staff has been held normal, what will be the changes in the formula? L will become Ks plus C. Okay, D equals to what? L cos theta plus R sin theta. Okay, and V equals to what? L sin theta. By using this formula, you can find out the elevation. Similarly, when the line of sight is in depression, this plus sign gets changes. It becomes negative. So L cos theta minus what? R sin theta, and V will be what? L sin theta. Okay, so these are the some formulas based on the condition. One, when your line of sight is perfectly horizontal. One, when your line of sight is inclined upward or downward. And when your staff has been held normal to the line of sight, then the formula changes. These formulas are used, and based on whatever questions has been given, based on your condition, you will have to select these formulas. Okay, so these are the formulas in tachometric surveying. After that, the various constant which has been given, that is your S is your staff intercept. Basically, it is the top hair reading minus your lower hair reading. F is the focal length of the objective, so the focal length of the objective is given by small f. D is the distance of vertical axis of the instrument from the optical center of the O. So this is your D, abbreviation of D, and capital D is the horizontal distance from the staff to the vertical axis of the instrument. K is the multiplying constant. L is the length measured along the line of sight. C is the additive constant. H is the height of instrument. R is the central hair reading, and V is the vertical intercept, and P is instrument station, and Q is the staff station. So these are all the abbreviations which we have used in this formulas. Okay, now what is this analytical lens? As I've told you in the starting of the lecture, that in tachometric surveying, the theodolite has been provided with an analytical lens. So in extremely focusing telescope, a convex lens is fitted between the diaphragm. So as I've told you, a convex lens is fitted between the diaphragm and the objective of the fixed distance from the objective. Okay, so the telescope which has been used in tachometric surveying, it has been provided with a convex lens. Okay, provided between the diaphragm and the objective at a fixed distance from the objective. So it has been provided between what? Between your diaphragm and the objective, and it is at a fixed distance from the objective. Okay, the meaning of analytical lens is unalterable and invariable. So it is basically used to reduce your constant, to make your additive constant 0, and it is used for making your multiplying constant as 100. By using analytical lens, the multiplying constant becomes 100 and the additive constant becomes 0. Okay, in case of internal focusing, modern telescopes, the additive constant is very small and can be taken as 0. So generally the additive constant is very small, therefore it is taken as 0. Commonly used in external focusing telescope. So it is commonly used in external focusing telescope. Okay, now the next method, this was all related to your fixed hair method. Now we'll see about your substance method, that is your movable hair method. It is also called as substance method, so you don't need to be confused if it is saying substance method, that means it is talking about movable hair method only. Okay, now this is very slow method, firstly because you need to adjust your upper hair as well as you need to adjust your lower hair. Okay, so this is very time consuming. The vertical substance method is almost absolute. Generally this method is not in practice. So the most commonly used method is your the first method, which is your fixed hair method. Only horizontal base substance is in use. So only horizontal base substance is in use. So in this method, what you need to do, what, suppose this is your leveling staff. Okay, this is your leveling staff. Point A is the first target, point B is the second target. So what you have to do, you will have to lift the upper hair until it is reaching the point A, and you will have to lift the lower hair down the lower hair so that it reaches the point B. When it is reaching the point A and B, you will have to fix that points, and after that you will have to take the readings. Okay, so based on that you can calculate what, your horizontal distance, and it is given by what, d equals to what, s by 2 tan alpha. So by using this formula you can easily calculate what, the horizontal distance. Okay, now the next method is your tangential method. This is also very similar to your fixed hair method, but in this case you have to use what, theodolite. A normal theodolite can also be used. No need to provide an analytical lens in that, or any diaphragm which is having top, central and bottom hair. So in tangential method there can be different conditions, like when both the angles are inclined upwards. So as I've told you, in this method a special leveling staff has been used. In that leveling staff it has been provided with a target. One is at the top, one is at the bottom. So you need to take what, you need to bisect the first point, first target, and you will have to measure the angle that is given by alpha 1, and you have to take the second target and you have to measure the angle that is your alpha 2. Based on that calculations, you will have to, by using some certain trigonometric formulas, you can easily calculate what, the horizontal distance. Okay, so suppose both the angles are in elevation, suppose both the targets are in elevation, so you will have to use this formula, s divided by what, tan alpha 1 minus tan alpha 2. Okay, and if you want to find out the vertical distance, it is given by what, v d tan alpha 2. Okay, and elevation is given by what, p plus h plus p minus r. In case when both the angles are in depression, so the formula changes from what, s equals to what, tan alpha 1 minus tan alpha 2. Sorry, this one, this angles are been shifted. Firstly it was tan alpha 1 minus alpha 2. So in case of depression it is tan alpha 2 minus alpha 1. Okay, v equals to what, d tan alpha 2. Okay, so elevation can be found out by using this formula, p plus h minus v minus r. So in this it was plus v, and this it is minus v. And if one angle is in elevation and one angle is in depression, you will have to use this formula, s divided by what, tan alpha 2 minus tan alpha 1, v equals to what, d tan alpha 2. And in case of elevation, it is given by the formula p plus h minus v minus r. Okay, so this is all related to your dichromatic surveying. So you need to remember firstly these three methods, that is your stadia hair method, your fixed hair method, or your movable hair method, that tangential method, special instrument. So in fixed hair method there are various conditions and there are various formulas available, and similarly in tangential method there is one formula. There are different formulas based on the condition, if both the angles are in elevation, if both the angles are in depression. And third case is when one angle is in your elevation and one is in your depression. So you need to remember all these formulas because it might ask for 1 max question in your GATE exam. So you need to remember all these formulas. These are very important. After that, we'll start with the new chapter of surveying, that is your contour. This is very important. Okay, so basically contour, you must have studied in your engineering lectures that contour is a line which is passing through the point of equal elevation. So it is basically an imaginary line. If it is that line which is joining all the points, and that points are having the elevation which is same. Okay, so a contour line may be also defined as the intersection of level surface with the surface of the earth. It can also be defined as the level surface because it is joining the point which is having the same level, so it is a level surface with the surface of the earth. Okay, after that, when the contours are drawn underwater, they are termed as submarine contour. Okay, after that, this is the best method of representation of features such as hill, depression, underwater, etc. two-dimensional paper. So contours are basically used for what representation of hills. It can be used for representation of depressions and underwaters. So basically the topology of the ground can be easily represented with the help of contours. Okay, the instrument which has been normally used in contour is your leveling instrument and your leveling staff, because in contour you need to find out the levels of certain points. So for finding out the levels, you need to require your leveling instruments. It can be your dumping level, it can be auto level. Okay, it can be your theodolite and your leveling staff. Okay, this is the common instruments which is normally used in your contours. After that, contour intervals. This is also important. Contour intervals, the distance, the vertical distance between the two consecutive contours are terms of contour intervals. So as you must have seen contours, they are what circular lines. Okay, irregular lines. So the distance between the two consecutive contours are called as the contour interval. It is desirable to have a constant contour interval throughout the map. It is generally recommended that the interval should be it should be a constant. That means if the contour interval is 1 meter, then all the contours should be having an interval of 1 meter, so that your map looks clean. Okay, and it is easily readable. Contour interval is inversely proportional to the scale of map. So contour interval ultimately deals with what it is basically inversely relation with the scale of map. So if the map is high, it will be more, it will be less, and if the map scale is low, then it will be more. Okay, for the projections such as highway and railway, generally the contour interval is taken as 2 meters. So it is stating about that if you are doing a project related to highways and the railways, so if you want to find out the contours, you must keep the contour interval for at least 2 meters in case of highways and railways. In case of earthwork, building site, dams, etc., city survey, for that you need to take the interval as 0.5 meter. Okay, after that, geological survey. For geological survey, you need to take the interval as 6 to 15 meter. So these are certain values of contour interval you should keep in mind while performing any kind of work. So based on your kind of work or the category of your work, you have to choose the interval. Okay, so that your map looks good and it is easily readable by anyone. Okay, now the horizontal equivalent. So if you want to find out the horizontal equivalent, the horizontal distance between the consecutive contour, as the contour interval, it is a vertical distance. Horizontal equivalent is the horizontal distance between the two consecutive contour. Okay, it is not a constant value and varies from point to point depending upon the steepness of the ground. So horizontal equivalent cannot be constant because the ground features are not same, so it will vary from point to point, and it basically depends upon the topographical feature of the ground. So if it is steepen, then it will change continuously. Okay, steeper the ground, the lesser is the horizontal equivalent. So if the ground condition is very steep, it is very slopey, then the horizontal equivalent will be less in that case. After that, contour gradient, a line lying on the ground surface throughout. So if you consider a line which is lying on the ground throughout and maintaining a constant inclination. If it is maintaining in perfect inclination to the horizontal surface, then it is called as the contour gradient. So it is considered to be a contour gradient if it is an inclined line, okay, and it is maintaining what, constant inclination with the horizontal surface, then it is considered to be a contour gradient. Okay, now grade contour, the line having equal gradient along the slope are called as the grade contour. So if it is a line having equal gradient along a slope, then it is called to be a grade contour. The difference in elevation of 2 points of a grade contours divided by the distance between them is always a constant gradient. Okay, so if you find out the difference between 2 points which is in grade contour divided by what, the distance between that 2 points, it will be always be a constant gradient. An instrument which is called as Ghat tracer is also used. This is an instrument for used for locating points on a given contour gradient. So Ghat tracer is basically an instrument which is generally used for locating points on the given contour gradients. Okay. After that, the characteristics of contour. We have different characteristics of contour. This is very important because most of the time this type of questions are asked in your papers. You need to remember all these characteristics because this is very important. In order to, if you are doing any contour work, you must know all these characteristics, because based on that you will have to prepare your map. Okay, all the points on the contour line have the same elevation. That is the outmost first point, that if you are considering a contour line, if you are taking a contour line basically means the point which is if you draw a line, okay, that should pass through the point which is having equal elevation, then that is the main condition of contour. So all the points on a contour line have the same elevation. The elevation of the contours are indicated or printed close to the contours. So basically it is in this form, like this. It must be written over here 100, suppose this is 200. Okay, in this way the contours values are given. When no value is represent, it indicates a flat terrain. Suppose if it is not showing any kind of diagram in that represent it is a flat ground. A 0 meter contour line represent a coastal line. Okay, so this is the first characteristic which is very important, that is if all the points in order to make a contour line, it should pass through the point of all points which is having equal elevations. Okay, after that it is represented by the number. Contour lines are generally represented by the number, and that number indicates its reduced level. Okay, after that the second point is that two contour lines do not intersect each other in case of except in case of an overhanging cliff or an cave pretending hillside. So you must have seen the diagram. Generally, though contour lines never intersect each other. Okay, it can happen only in case of this type of overhanging cliff. In that case only, if you draw a contour of this, there might be a chance that your contour line intersect each other. Other than that, there is no chance that any contour line will intersect each other. That is the second characteristic. Next, equally spaced contour represent uniform slope. So if the contours are being placed equally, okay, that is representing a uniform slope, and the contour that are well apart indicates a gentle slope. So if the contours are uniformly like this, in this manner, uniformly spaced, then it is indicating what, a uniform slope. But if it is well apart from each other, then it is indicating what, then it is indicating a gentle slope. Okay, after that, this is your third characteristic. Fourth characteristic, a set of closed contour with a higher figure inside and a lower figure outside indicates a hill. So if the value inside is what, higher, that is, it is showing 100. After that, the next contour is your 99, then the next contour is your 98. So that indicates a hill over there. By this diagram, you can say, by showing the value, by seeing the value, you can tell that it is showing a hill. And if the lower values are inside and the higher values are outside, that is representing a depression. So a set of closed contour with a higher figure inside and lower figure outside indicates a hill, whereas in the case of depression, lakes, etc., the higher figures are outside and the lower figures are inside. So by the values also we can find out whether it is an hill or it is a depression. Okay, After that, a watershed or a ridge line and a valley line cross the contours at right angles. So if it is a ridge across, it will cross the contour at right angle to each other. Irregular contour represent, if the contours are very irregular, then it is showing what, an uneven ground. Okay, the direction of steepest slope at a point on a contour is at right angle to the contour. So the direction of the steepest slope at a point on a contour is at right angle to the contour. After that, a part of land in the form of tongue which just out from the hill area is known as a spur. So if there is a part of a land which is in the form of a tongue which just from the hilly area, then it is indicated, then it is also called as a spur. Okay, now there are various methods available for doing contouring. The most commonly methods are the direct method and the indirect method. So mostly in field, direct method is not adopted. Your indirect method is mostly adopted because direct method is very time consuming, though it is accurate, but it is very time consuming. So generally the indirect method has been adopted. Now contour can be drawn if the horizontal and vertical measurements of the properly selected areas are known. So if you want to find out what the contour of an area, you need to divide the area. Okay, you need to divide the area. Okay, and you will have to do what, you will have to make horizontal, you will have to measure the horizontal distance as well as the vertical elevations of these points. If you have got all the horizontal distance as well as the vertical elevation, you can easily calculate the contours inside that. Okay, so in direct method, what is happening, in the direct method of contouring, the reduced level of various selected points on the contour lines are obtained and their positions are located. The contours are then drawn by joining this point. It is very accurate method, but it is very tedious and time consuming. So what is it is saying that, so if you want to find out the contour of 100, so what you will have to do, what you will have to place your instrument over here, and you will have to see whether the reading for 100 is supposed coming out to be 1.5. So you will have to check through this whole area where the point is coming, where the height is 1.5. So this is very time consuming. Okay, so this is very time consuming. You will have to check the whole area. Okay, so this is not a very easy method. So this method is not adopted because it is very time consuming, because because in such a greater area, such a large area, it is almost impossible to select points at where the 1.5 reading will be coming. So it is very difficult for that. So therefore the direct method is not generally adopted. After that, method used is what, as I've told you, the common method, the instrument which has been used is by what, level and staff. In this series of point having the same staff reading, as I have told you, the same staff reading should be there, and thus the same elevations are plotted by joining the smooth curve. By hand level, and hand level instrument can also be used in this method. Instrument main stand over the benchmark and the staff main is moved to the point of the contour which has to be plotted. As soon as the instrument man observes the required staff reading for the particular contouring, he intersects the staff man to stop and locate the position of that point. So hand level can also be used. Now the most important method in contouring is your indirect method, because this is the most common method which has been normally used in your contouring. In this method, the points are selected at random. So in this method you don't have to choose the point. In this method you will randomly select points, the position and the elevation of which are not necessarily located on the contour line. So you are randomly selecting the points. The position of the reduced level of such points are determined. So you need to find out the position, and the contours are drawn by interpolation. Now the contours are being drawn with the help of interpolation. So this is very effective method, and it does not take the time which was required in direct method. So in this method you will mark the area, you will measure the horizontal distance, you will select randomly some points, and you will measure what the vertical elevation. Okay, after vertical elevation you will do the interpolation in that. You are doing the interpolation. After interpolation, based on the interpolation you will have to join the points which is having the same elevation. Okay, so this is the most common method, indirect method, and very effective method. Okay, usually the indirect method of contouring are preferred as they are less tedious. As I have told you, direct method is not used in practice because it is very time consuming, so you need to use this indirect method only. In general practice, to obtain the indirect method so as to increase the number of contour rather than consuming more time and obtain fewer contouring. Okay, now there are different methods available in indirect method. First one is your square method. In this, what you are doing, you are dividing the whole area into square and into number of squares. So you need to do what? You need to prepare your field in the form of a square. You need to prepare horizontal line, okay, as well as your vertical line. Okay, then at each point of your square you need to measure the elevation of that point, and after doing the interpolation you can easily draw a contour from there. Okay, this is the square method. Then this cross section method. In this you have to do what? You have to divide the whole area into number of horizontal lines. Then you need to draw a cross section from there. Okay, and at the point where the horizontal line and the cross section are meeting, that points needed to be the elevation of that points needed to be find out. And after doing the interpolation, then after doing the interpolation you can easily draw what? Your contours from there. Okay, this is the cross section method. After that, the next method is a tachymetric method. This can also be used. This is practically suitable for hilly area. So as I have told you, in tachymetric surveying we generally adopt tachymetric surveying in the places which is inaccessible, where the chain observation is very difficult. In that case you will have to adopt tachymetric survey method. So in this you need to measure what? The horizontal distance as well as the vertical elevation. So for this method, so if you are having an area which is very hilly or it is having depression, in that case you will have to adopt what? Tachymetric method. One more method is also used, that is called as your plane table method. So in this method, the distance and the elevation of the staff point is reduced by trigonometric relation. So the reduced level is generally find out with the help of trigonometric relation. The observer scales the computed distance along the plotted line to locate the points and writes the compound elevation in such a way that the plotted position of the point coincides with the decimal points of the elevation. So plane table method is generally used in contouring when you need to do all the office work as well as your side work simultaneously. So generally plane table surveying, in that case it is adopted. So these are the four methods which comes under indirect method. Okay, one is your square method, one is your cross section method, next one is your tachymetric method, and last one is your plane table method. Okay, what is the application of contours? Since a contour map is a three-dimensional representation of the earth surface, it furnishes a lot of information. The first information which your contour map provides is your determination of intervisibility. So if you are selecting a site for your railway project or your highway project, for that you require the topography of the area in which you are preparing your roads or your railways. So it will show whether the intervisibility between 2 points are there or not, because intervisibility is very important. So that will also tell you how much amount you will have to cut the area from. Okay, how much cutting you have to do, how much filling you have to provide. So for that purpose your contour maps is very suitable. In case of drainage area, as I have told you, that contour map shows you the topographical features of the earth. So for a drainage purpose it can be very useful. Okay, and now the capacity of reservoir. A contour map is very useful to study the possible location of dam and the volume of water to be stored. So based on the contour map, where there is major depression, you can select those sites for your dam, okay, where you can store a large volume of water. So these are the three major points where your contour is generally required. That is the intervisibility between the station, which is required in your road works, in your railway works. Okay, one is your drainage area. So if you need to find out what if you have to provide some drainage along your roadside. For that also you required what, your drainage characteristics. For that you required your contour map and the capacity of reservoir. So based on the depression of your topography, you can easily choose the location for your dams and other water body structures. Okay. So this is about contours. Now we'll see the next topic, that is related to plane table surveying. Okay, so plane table surveying is basically, it is based on, its name has been given based on the instrument because it is a table over there. Okay, and a sheet is being provided on the table. The table is mounted on the tripod, and in this method you perform what, your site observation as well as your plotting work you will do simultaneously in plane table surveying. Okay, so this method is generally used in small areas works. It is not a very accurate method, but the advantage of this method is that whatever you are performing, that is visible in front of your eyes, so there is less chances of errors. Okay, so we'll start with the plane table surveying. Plane table surveying, basically it is a graphical method of surveying in which field observation and plotting are done simultaneously. As I've told you, in this what you can do, you can perform your leveling work or your field observation and your plotting work, you can do it directly and simultaneously, but because the table is there and your sheet is over there. So what you have to do, if you want to measure horizontal distance, what you will do, we will keep the chain from the table to the required point and you will measure the horizontal distance between that. Suppose it is coming out to be 50 meter. So what you need to do, based on your scale, you will plot directly on that sheet. So what you are doing, you are doing site work, that is your horizontal distance measurement with the help of chain, as well as you are plotting the that work on the sheet also. Okay, so both the work can be done simultaneously. Now, instrument used in plane table surveying, there are various type of instrument required in plane table surveying. There are lot of accessories in plane table surveying. The first one is your plane table. As I've told you, it is a drawing board in which you can fix your drawing sheet on that. Okay, generally it is of wooden material. Generally the table is of wooden material. It is at the bottom, it has been provided with the threadings and screws so that it can be fixed to a tripod, because in surveying you make the observation when the line of sight is horizontal. So in order to make it perfectly horizontal, there are tripod is been provided over there. Okay, now the traverse table level by adjusted tripod, less usually by eye estimation. So the leveling of the table is generally done with the help of eye estimation, not some instrument is required. Generally it is a drawing board of 45 to 60 centimeter. So the sizes also are given. It is of 45 to 60 centimeter. It can be also in the size of 45 by 75 centimeter. The head consists of ball and socket joints. As I have told you, at the bottom it has been provided with some ball and socket arrangement, so that it can be made perfectly horizontal. Okay, because the major requirement of surveying is that the line of should be perfectly horizontal. For making that, ball and socket arrangement has been provided in plane table surveying. Okay, another type of table is available, that is your coast survey table, level done very accurately with the help of 3-foot screws. So in this, at the bottom 3-foot screws are provided, just like in your theodolite or in your dumpy level, in your auto level. So in this you can very accurately level your plane table, but the most commonly used is your traverse table only and the Johnson table only, in which the leveling is done with the help of eye estimation, not with some instrument. Okay, so this is about the table. This is the first instrument which is required in your plane table surveying. After that, the next important instrument in plane table surveying is your alidade. So alidade is very important. It is similar to your scale. Okay, it just look like your scales. Okay, it is similar to your scale. On one side it has been provided with a graduation similar to your scale, in which like your scale has been provided with some graduation that is in mm and centimeters. So similarly LEDate is also provided with graduation which is showing centimeters and mm. Okay, and on the front side it is provided with the object vane, and at the bottom side it is provided with your sighting vane. So why LEDate isn't provided? So what you need to do that in the front side where it has been provided with the object vane, it has been provided with a crosshair. So what you have to do, you need to keep your LEDate on the table and you need to bisect the object which is required to be marked. So you will have to match it with your horsehair. After matching it with your horsehair, one of the surveyor will take a chain, and from the bottom of the table it will measure the horizontal distance between them. Okay, after measuring the horizontal distance between them, according to your scale you will have to plot it on your sheet. So this is the purpose of your LEDate. From the sighting vane it will see, the surveyor will see, and from the object vane it will bisect the object, and it has been provided with the fiducial edge. Okay, and based on the graduations marks you can plot it easily on your sheet. So that is the purpose of LEDate. Now we have different type of LEDate available. One is your plain LEDate, one is your telescopic LEDate. Plain LEDate means what? It is just similar to your metal or wooden rule with two vanes at the both the end. As I have told you, it is having two vanes, one on the front, one on the back. Okay, not very much suitable on hilly area. So this type of scale is not suitable in case of hilly area because there will be many difficulties in bisecting the object, because you cannot move this scale, okay, in the inclined direction. So in that case this type of LEDate is not suitable. Okay. Next one is your telescopic LEDate. In telescopic LEDate, a scale is being provided at the bottom and it has been attached with a telescope. So in this method this type of LEDate is very suitable where the area of survey is very large and the object which you are bisecting is very large. It is far away. In that case telescopic LEDate can be very suitable, and it is also since it is a telescopic LEDate, you can rotate it along your horizontal axis. Okay, so if any object it is not at the ground level or not at the flat ground, you can easily bisect it by rotating your telescope up and down. Okay, so this is the advantage of telescopic LEDate, but normally we use plain LEDate only for small surveying work, because as I have told you, plane table surveying is generally adopted for small works because it is not a very accurate method. Okay, so these type of LEDate are also required in plane table surveying because you need to plot the work what you are doing in your surveying. So for plotting you require your scale and the graduation should be marked on that. So this LEDate is one of the most important instrument in plane table surveying. Okay, accuracy and the range of sights are increased by its use. Telescopic LEDate, as I have told you, since it is having a telescope, accuracy improves, its range also improves. Horizontal distance between the instrument and the point sighted can be computed by taking the stadia reading on the staff kept at the point. So the telescope, since it has been provided with the telescope, so if you are using leveling staff, we can also measure what the horizontal distance by taking stadia reading, that is the top hair reading and the bottom hair reading. So you don't need to every time measure with the help of chain. You can directly use what a leveling staff. You will have to keep the leveling staff on the point which the horizontal distance need to find out. You will measure the top hair reading, you will measure the bottom hair reading, and we will subtract both the reading, and by using your tachometric formulas you can calculate the horizontal distance. Okay, after that next one is the elevation of point can be computed by using your usual tachometric relation. As I have told you, if you can use your tachometric relation to find out the horizontal and vertical distance. Next instrument which is required is your plumbing fork. So plumbing fork is basically, it is used for large scale work, meant for centering of table or at the point of the station occupied by the plane table when the plotted position of the point is already known as the sheet. So what you have to do, that suppose this is your sheet. Okay, U fork look like this. Okay, so suppose this is the point, so you need to mark this point on the ground, or if you have to mark the ground point on the sheet, you will have to do what? You will have to keep your LED on this point. So you will have to keep your LED on this point. So the bottom point will represent it on the ground in the similar manner. So if you want to represent the point which is ground on the sheet, you will have to keep the LED this point on the ground, and whatever the point which is representing on the sheet, you will have to draw it. Okay, so that is the purpose of plumbing fork. So basically it is generally used for centering work. It has been provided with the plumb bob at the bottom. So that is also one of the important instrument. So every time you change the position, you will have to mark your centering. You will have to perform the centering work with the help of plumbing fork. And similarly, if there is already a point on the ground, you will have to mark it on the sheet. You will have to use this plumbing fork. Okay, this is also one of the important instrument. Spirit level, as I've told you, in most of the surveying we need to do what? Most of the surveying work we need to keep the line of sight horizontal, because if it is not horizontal, that will not give you the perfect horizontal distance or vertical distance. For that you require the spirit level. So the spirit level has been kept on the top side and then on the bottom side, and it is checked whether the bubble is coming to the center or not in both the cases. If it is coming center in both the cases, then you can perform your surveying work. Okay, after that a compass is also provided. A compass is generally used for what? Giving the direction, because you are preparing a map. So in map you need required a certain orientation, so for that purpose compass is required. Okay, so a trough compass is generally provided, and whenever you start the work, the trough compass is kept on the right top corner, and whatever direction, north direction it is showing, you need to mark it on the sheets before starting your work. Okay, now another instrument which is required is your drawing paper, because whatever you are performing, you will have to plot it on a sheet. For that you require your drawing paper. Okay, after that there are how this basically plane table surveying is working. The working operation behind your plane table surveying is what? First of all, you will have to fix your plane table surveying to the tripod stand. Okay, then the leveling of the plane table is done with the help of your spirit level or with the help of eye judgment. Then centering is done with the help of plumbing fork. Okay, then orientation is done with the help of your trough compass. So this is how you use this different instrument or the accessories in plane table surveying. After that, orientation, the process of putting the plane table into some fixed direction, so that the line representing a certain direction on the plane is parallel to that direction on the ground. So orientation is basically means at every point your direction should be what? Same, because in surveying work what you have to do, you will have to perform you will have to shift your instrument from one point to another point and so on. So for that you need to maintain a certain direction, you need to keep maintain a certain direction. So for that you require a trough compass. So at every point you need to maintain that orientation, because if you are not maintaining that orientation, you will not get your proper drawing. So for that orientation is very much necessary, and for that your trough compass is generally provided. Okay, if the orientation is not done, the faults will not be parallel to itself and different position, resulting into overlap of the distortion of the map. As I have told you, if you are not maintaining the orientation at different points, so what will happen? The map will be not proper. Okay, and your sheet will get distorted. Okay, the significance, this is an essential condition to be fulfilled when more than one instrument station is to be fixed. As I have told you, in surveying work you need to shift what your instrument from one place to another, because it is not possible that you will get everything from a single point. You will have to shift your instrument from one point to another point. For that purpose, if you are shifting it from one point to another, so what was the first orientation? The first point at that is the starting point of your surveying work. You need to mark a direction, and you need to see that the same direction has been followed at the second point. For that you require to do what? Orientation. After that, method of orientation, there are two different methods of orientation. One is your with the help of trough compass, and second is your orientation by backsighting. The first method by trough compass is generally not an accurate method, because what happens in trough compass is that if you are using a trough compass, what is happening, if you are doing a surveying work in which there is a lot of electric field going over there or a lot of magnetic field in that area, what will happen, that will affect your trough compass. That will not, your whatever your trough compass is showing the direction, that will not be the true representation of your north and south. So for that you will have to do what, the second method, that is your orientation by backsighting. This is the very useful method. Okay, in this method there is the condition over in your first case was your trough compass method. Is the problem is that the first method it is affected by the electric field or any electric current passing from it, but in orientation by backsighting there is no concentration of electric field or any magnetic field will affect that work. So in the second method, what you have to do, that two methods when it is possible to set a plane table on the point is already plotted on the sheet by the way of observation from the previous table. So what you have to do, what, suppose you have drawn a single point from the first point. Okay, so if you have drawn, let me draw and show you. Suppose you have drawn a line from the first station, this is your first point. Okay, after that from over here, from this point you are now shifting the point to your second point. So what you have to do, you will have to keep the trough compass along this line. Okay, you are keeping your trough compass along this line, and you need to rotate your plane table until it is matching with the your first station point, that is your point A. So when it is matching your first station, that means your orientation by backsighting has been done. Okay, if you are drawing, suppose this is point A, you have drawn a point from A to P. Okay, now after drawing A to P, you are now shifting the instrument to P. You need to do what, you need to keep the trough compass along the line, this AP, and you need to turn the table until your station A is been marked by the LE. So once the LE has been marked with your station A, that means your orientation with the backsighting has been done, and every time you shift the instrument you will have to perform backsighting. Okay, so that will give you the perfect orientation at each and every point. Okay, so these are the two methods which is generally used for orientation, that is with the help of trough compass. One is your backsighting. The most common method which has been used is your backsighting method, because it is not affected by electric field or magnetic field. And trough compass method, there are chances that it will get affected by your magnetic field, and it will not give you the proper representation of north and south direction. Okay, so try to prefer your backsighting method. Now there are different methods available in plane table surveying. First method is your radiation method, second is your intersection method, third is your traversing, next is your resection method. Okay, the first two methods are generally employed for locating the details, while the other two methods are used for locating the plane table stations. Okay, in radiation method is what, suitable when the distance are small and arcs are singles, instrument can control the points to be detailed. So if you are taking considering a point, and from there you are measuring what number of points, so that is your radiation method. Intersection method is what, suppose this is your line, you have drawn this line. Okay, you want to establish a new point. So what you are doing, you are marking line from this point, this line, suppose you are marking this line, and suppose you are marking this line. So whenever these 2 points intersect, that will give you the intersection point, and that is your new point which has been established. So this is about the intersection method. Traversing is what, if you are following a pattern, that is one line, then the second line, third line, fourth line, fifth line. If you are connecting number of survey lines, then it is called as your traversing. Resection method is generally used for establishing a new method. In this there are two major method, which is called as your 2-point method and 3-point problems. Okay, in this, you with the help of 3 points you have to establish a new point, and in 2-point problem with the help of 2 points you need to establish one new point. Okay, the 3-point method, there are mechanical methods in which you can use mechanical instruments based on which you can get a new point. One is your graphical method, based on certain graphs you can use you can get your new point. Next is your trial and error method, which is also called as a lemon method. And 2-point problem, plane table stations can be located by two well defined points. So with the help of 2 points you can easily get a new station point. Okay, so these comes under resection method. So these are the 4 methods which is normally used in plane table surveying. One is your radiation method, which is performed from a single point. intersection method, which is performed from at least 2 points, and with the help of the line which has been drawn from those stations, a new point has been established. Then there is traversing. Generally, if you need to cover larger area, you need to connect number of survey lines. Okay, so if you are connecting number of survey lines, it forms a traverse, and that has been called as your traversing. And then your resection, the process of determining plotted position of station occupied by the plane table by means of side taken towards the point, the location of which have been plotted. So in this, compass is required, backsighting is required, 3-point problem is required, 2-point problem is required. Basically, resection method is generally adopted when, what if you have done your surveying work, and after completion of all your work, after coming home, you have seen your sheet and you get to know that you have missed at least 1 or 2 points. So you need to get those points. So for that you require at least 3 points which you have plotted on your sheet, at least 2 points which you have plotted on your sheet. Based on those 3 points, you can establish a new point, and similarly, if you have got 2 points at least, you can, with the help of those 2 points, you can establish a new point. Okay, so this is about your resection method. So this is all about your plane table surveying. So this is the last chapter of plane tables of your surveying. After that, I think I have left with the triangulation surveying and photographic surveying, that I will do it in the next lecture. Okay, so this is all related to plane table surveying. As I have told you, it is basically a graphical method. Okay, in this your plotting and site work is then done simultaneously. Various accessories are required. One is your plane table, one is your validate, one is your plumbing fork, one is your spirit level, compass, and drawing paper. Plane table is used to keep your drawing sheet. Validate is used for bisecting the object as well as plotting. After that, plumbing fork is generally used for what? It is generally used for centering work. Spirit level, in order to make the line of sight perfectly horizontal. Compass is used to give the orientation, and sheet has been given to draw your survey work. Okay. Orientation, as I've told you, you need to maintain, because surveying work is not possible from a single point. So whenever you mark the direction of your north, so you need to maintain that direction throughout all the points. For that purpose, orientation is done. So okay, there are basically 2 methods of orientation in plane table surveying, that is orientation by trough compass and by backsighting. Trough compass is not a suitable one because it can be affected by electrical field, but orientation by backsighting is very accurate method, and it can be used over your trough compass method. Okay, different methods in plane table is your radiation, intersection, traversing, and resection. Okay, radiation is done from a single point. Intersection point can be done with the help of 2 points. Traversing is number of connected survey lines. Okay, and resection method is generally used when you have 3 points or 2 points, and you need to establish a new point with the help of that 3 points and 2 points. In that case, your resection method can be used. Okay, this is all for today. We'll start with your triangulation surveying and your photographic surveying in the next lecture. I think we are also having one topic related to GIS GPS that we will do with your triangulation photographic surveying together. Okay, thank you so much.